We heard from Cam Newton for the first time since he signed with the New England Patriots in a Zoom call with reporters on Friday. I'm Sierra Goodwill here with Evan Lazar. It seems like Cam Newton already knows that when you're a Patriot, you're very vague, you say all the right things. But one thing he was very clear on is how excited he is about this opportunity to follow up what he called a great dynasty in following the footsteps of Tom Brady, calling the opportunity surreal. Your takeaways from what Newton had to say on Friday?
Well, I think that we all saw him in that roundtable discussion with OBJ and Todd Gurley, and he was pissed off, right? And I think today was a little bit more subdued, and a lot of people tried to kind of pick and prod around those questions. Do you have a chip on your shoulder? Are you angry about how your free agency went? And I think at this point in time, Cam has kind of put that behind him and is just sort of focused on the season ahead and is saying all the right things, like you said. The one thing that I love that he said is that I wake up mad. And I love that. I just think that that's such a great mentality of like, he just wakes up and he's just pissed off at anybody and everybody. And he uses that as motivation. And at the end of the day, who really cares if he has any right to be mad, right? Just use it as motivation. I think that that's exactly what Tom Brady and Julian Edelman and so many guys with chips on their shoulders have done in the past. Like, we always say, does Tom Brady 20 years later really care that he went in the 6th round? The answer is yes, because that's how great athletes kind of motivate themselves. And I think Cam sort of fits that bill as well.
Before we move on to our next point, Newton also saying that his shoulder is a full go. He feels great. He feels amazing. He did mention that he doesn't have to be at 100% right now because there's still time to ramp up for those practices and before week 1. So hinting that, things could get better for him, but overall he feels really good physically. The question between Cam Newton and Bill Belichick is, how are these two personalities going to mesh, right? You got the outgoing, boisterous, loud Cam Newton and the nose to the grind Bill Belichick. And he was asked about that a lot today on how he was fitting in with Belichick and the Patriots. And pretty much he said he's loved it so far.
Yeah, and to go back to your point real quick about the Cam's body and the injury, the big question right now actually is his foot, not his shoulder. His shoulder is fine. The foot is a little bit more of a question mark. I was told about a month ago that he was about 90% right now. So we're getting into that 10% of going from, rehab to full speed, game speed. I think that that's exactly where Cam is still. But with meshing with Bill Belichick, I think the great part about his answer was how he said, there's preconceived notions from the other side too, right? People might have preconceived notions about Cam Newton. Well, there's also preconceived notions or perceptions about playing for Bill Belichick. And then when he got here, I think he realized that a lot of that isn't true. And I think that that's sort of where these two can kind of come together. Is a lot of people say crap about you, a lot of say crap about me, and actually we're not anything like that. And I think that's sort of where they can come in the middle of, let's shut up all of these people that think that they know so much about us that have never actually met us in our lives. And that's, I think, the biggest thing is, like, you hear all these people writing about this topic and talking about it on sports radio that have never stepped foot in the NFL locker room, that have never talked to Cam Newton or Bill Belichick face to face, and they act like they're best friends with the guy and they know him inside and out. I think that's exactly what Cam was saying, is you can talk to your sources, you can talk to former teammates that played for Belichick, but nothing is like when you actually get face to face with the guy in the building.
Yeah, he did say he had his sources that he talked to before signing with the Patriots on what it was like to play for this organization. But I do want to switch gears here a little bit to Jarrett Stidham, because we heard from him for the first time this preseason as well, where he seemed really invigorated about this offseason. He said obviously things were crazy, admittedly not how he expected it from the start with the Cam Newton signing, but said he absolutely feels like he's ready to be the starting quarterback of the team come week 1, and that he thrives off the competition and can't wait to compete with Cam Newton and Brian Hoyer for that starting role. Your thoughts on Stid's outlook today?
Well, I think the great thing about Stidham is that he's always a pretty confident guy, right? He's never lacking confidence is what I meant to say. And I think that you saw that today, is that he's got this sort of quiet swag about him where he's not necessarily as demonstrative with it or as outgoing with it as somebody like Cam is, but he's very quietly confident about himself. And I think he said all the right things about how he's really just ready to compete and he's looking forward to the competition, because at the end of the day, you know, iron sharpens iron. And when you get into a competition like this, it only makes everybody better. It really does. And the best kind of rise to that occasion and overtake it. And some of the other guys that don't kind of rise to that occasion, well, then maybe you don't want them starting for your team at quarterback anyway, because no quarterback should sort of kind of be worried about competition, right? That should be the one thing that every QB is ready to do and ready to take part in, and it sounds like Stidham is one of those guys.
Brian Hoyer says he goes out there and competes for the starting role every day. He said he did that when Tom Brady. He said he did it when Tom Brady.
Bill Belichick to start Brian Hoyer after all this, wouldn't it?
That would be amazing. That would be amazing. He said he competed with Tom Brady for the starting role. He said, granted, I was never going to get it, but still, you got to have the mindset to go out there and compete. And definitely that was the sentiments from both Newton and Stidham. We'll have all of your Patriots coverage now as we get closer to some actual football in the padded practices that hopefully we get to see at training camp coming up soon. So find all of our coverage on our website at clnsmedia.com and subscribe to our YouTube channel at Patriots Press Pass.